This is Road Noise, episode number 58. Be the Woman. What? Hello and welcome again to another episode of Road Noise, Life 1 Mile at a Time. I'm your host, Michael Blackston, and you're sitting alongside me in the passenger seat as we commute all over the southeastern United States for my work. And right now we're in Alabama, headed east back home. In this episode, I've titled Be the Woman. This is the companion episode to the last episode, Be the Man. And everything within me is telling me to tread lightly, Michael. Tread lightly in this one. Because I am a man. I'm qualified to give advice about what it is to be a good man. But I'm not a woman. Am I qualified to give advice to women about how to be a good woman to your daughters and sons and model what a good woman is so that they will grow up to be the women for your daughters that you want them to be, and to find the wives that you want for your sons? I don't know. You'll have to be the judge of that. If you're hearing the sound of a rumble under my voice and you're a first-time listener, don't worry. Your radio is not messing up, or whatever you're listening to this through is not messing up. That's just the noise of the road, hence the reason I call it road noise. And what we do is try to develop ideas for learning to live life 1 mile at a time. And it's basically my opinions about things, and I ramble for you for 30 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, depending on how we go. Like I said, last episode I talked about all about being the man and being a good model for your sons on what kind of man you want them to be when they grow up and what kind of husbands you want for your daughters. Because children tend to gravitate and connect with people that represent the norm for them. Well, you know, the road goes both ways. It's just not the fathers out there that need to be good models for their sons and good models for who they want their daughters to marry, but mothers as well need to be good representations of the women they want their daughters to become and the wives they want their sons to find. My mom was a great example of this. My mom was a single mother most of my childhood. She got married to my dad and had me and my sister, and they got a divorce early on, and then they remarried for a short time. And then I think I was about in 4th grade, they just realized they weren't compatible. They got a divorce, and my mom raised my sister and I for the rest of our childhood, well, for most of my childhood, as a single mom. Now, when I was 14 years old, she did marry my stepdad, and they're together to this day, but I was a teenager, by then. Most of my childhood was spent watching my mom develop into this wonderful, strong woman of character and a fantastic representation of a woman, what a woman needed to be. And as I was looking for a mate, as I was praying to God, literally praying to God to send me someone that I could spend the rest of my life with, the type of woman I had in mind was the type of woman that was modeled by my mom. And that's what I think is very important for women today, have always been, but today especially because society is so skewed and confusing now with gender roles and all this other stuff. If you want your daughter to grow up to be an outstanding woman, you need to model what an outstanding woman looks like. Even if you don't have children, if you're an aunt as we say here in the South, and you've got a niece or a nephew, you can even be the model of what an outstanding woman is for them, as well as you live your life in front of them. Moms, do you want your sons to grow up and find a loose woman who really could care nothing for him only wants to use him? No, of course you don't want that. You want a good, strong, supportive woman for your son. You want a woman that is the model wife. And if you're going to do that, whether you're married or not, you don't have to be married to be the model for what his wife will be. You just need to be the model of a strong, good, outstanding woman. And so I've put together 7 ideals of a woman, of what I think a good woman looks like. Now, let me stress this, because as I said, I'm very nervous about this one, but I don't feel like I should be giving men advice in the last episode and then just leave out women. I think this is a companion piece, 2 topics that kind of go together. And I think that I am, as a man, very qualified to talk about this, because my mom did raise me as a single mother, and I was very watchful in the things that she did and the ways she acted and the things she taught me as a single mother that I think were essential. And in modeling that for me, looking for my future wife, and also for my sister, who has become a very outstanding, wonderful woman herself, and mother, and now grandmother herself. I'm just so proud of both her and my mom, and I thank them so much for being a part of my life, and I thank my mom for being that model. So let's jump into this and understand that I am not... I chose what I'm talking about very carefully. I stopped and I sat down and I made these show notes before I started to do this episode, because I knew I'd be driving and I didn't want to throw this stuff against the wall. I wanted to be very thoughtful in this process, because I don't want to sound like a male chauvinist pig. That's not at all where I'm coming from. And if you listen to the last episode, number 57, on Be the Man, you'll understand where I'm coming from with my heart, because I have the future of our children in mind, of the world's children in mind. And I want us to be strong and positive and make the world a better place. And so I think that it starts with us. So I'm going to tell you the 7 ideals of womanhood that I wrote down, and these are by far not everything. This isn't, okay, this is the list. These are just 7 things I could come up with, because I love to make lists in numbers of 7, and they tend to be right, in the wheelhouse of how long these episodes need to come. So I put together the top 7 that I could come up with that I thought were very important, and I think it's a good starting point. But again, by far not the be-all, end-all list. So let's start with number 1. Nurturing. I think a woman needs to be nurturing. I think men need to be nurturing too, but nurturing comes more naturally to the feminine of the species, I think. The women tend to be the ones who see a kitty cat on the screen and go, "Oh," or see a baby. That's a better example. See a baby and just feel the need to hold it. Most of the guys that I know, when there's a new baby around, they like the baby. They think the baby's cute. They think the baby's sweet. They could care less whether they hold it or not. Most of them. Now, I do know some guys who just love to hold babies, but for the most part, it's the women who stand in line. My cousin Miles recently had a baby. Savannah is this adorable, just beautiful little girl. And she's the only baby in the family right now. My daughter is 3.5 years old, so Savannah is a baby right now. And the women, on Sunday afternoons, when we all gather together as a family, and Savannah is there, the women gather around this baby. They're drawn like a magnet to it. It's the highlight of their day to be able to hold and care for and nurture Savannah. And so I think it's very important that we model that women, that you model that as mothers and women in the lives of young girls and young boys, to be nurturing, to be a shoulder to cry on, to be tender. When the dad is telling the guy or the little boy to suck it up for a scraped knee, mama needs to be there to kiss the boo-boo. There's a delicate balance there, and that balance is what makes everything smooth out. And I think that being a nurturing type of woman is very important to show the feminine side of things. I know a lot of tough women too, but I think nurturing is one of those natural things that God gave to women more than He gave to men. And I think it's wonderful if you model that for your daughters, just to be nurturing, to care, to show them that when they hurt, your son or your daughter, when they hurt, you hurt, and to let them see that as well. Number 2, supportive. I think an ideal woman is supportive. Fathers need to be supportive too, but I know I always wanted to know that my mom was my biggest fan. Dad would cheer me on, and Dad would give me the advice, and Dad would tell me to get up under the ball, attaboy, but Mom is my biggest fan, or always was. I guess my wife is now, but I chose a woman who was an ideal woman for me based on the model that my mom gave. And as a child growing up, my mom was my absolute biggest fan. She supported me. She told me that she believed in me. She offered me opportunities to excel in the areas that I was gifted in, and she was always there. Even if there were not opportunities for Dad to be there or other people, Mom was always there to nurture me and to help nurture that faith in me. And I think that's very important for moms, for sons, but also for daughters. Young girls are easily insecure. The world tells young girls that they have to look a certain way. They tell guys that too, but it's worse with girls, I believe. The more criticism about looks and physicality I see is aimed more at girls than boys. I think boys sometimes are expected to be rough and gruff and grow up to have, a little bit of a gut here and there. I mean, yeah, the ladies like the guys that are all cut and everything, but it seems like places like Hollywood and the magazines are not happy unless a woman is too skinny. And if she's got a little meat on their bones, they want to call her names and they want to degrade her. That starts at an early age when a woman feels unworthy and unbeautiful. That starts at an early age. And so you need to be supportive to her and show the model of support for young women right from the start. They need to know they're beautiful. I saw an article on Facebook the other day, and I didn't read the thing because I thought it was probably going to make me mad, and I just decided not to read it. But it was someone telling you not to tell your daughters they're beautiful. Well, I'm sorry. I can't not tell my daughter. I tell my daughter she's beautiful every day. And I don't tell her she's better than anybody else, but I tell her she's beautiful every single day. I love you, baby. You are beautiful. She's only 3.5 years old. It really doesn't make any difference to her that I tell her that. But I will continue that because as she grows, I want her to understand that I'm her fan and her mom is her fan. And so we both tell her she's beautiful. Women, you need to be supportive to your daughters for that. Make them understand that they are beautiful just the way they are. They are gifted in the ways God gave them, and whatever gifts that God did give them is a blessing. Number 3, communication. Communication is one of those things that in most relationships, I think, is missing. And a lot of times men like to be the ones to clam up. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I guess I'm saying it's a bad thing. I am saying it's a bad thing. Let me take that back because I think you should always be open. But we guys tend to clam up. Again, here's that balance. Women like to talk, and women like to communicate. But in that communication, there needs to be thought, both from the men and the women. So women, when you're trying to get a guy to talk, or you're trying to communicate with anybody, whether it's the husband or the boyfriend or a friend of yours, Make sure that the words you use and the way you communicate is open, honest, and controlled. Because you want your daughter to grow up to be a woman who is honest, open, controlled. That will give her power. That will give her security if she grows up to be that way. It will help. And you want to model that for her. You want to model that for your son so that he chooses a woman who doesn't allow him to just clam up and not talk. Sometimes people need to be left alone. I understand that. But in a marriage, communication is key. And so communication between you and your spouse or your significant other or whoever you're dealing with needs to be modeled so that guys will know what to look for. Your son will know what to look for in a woman. And your daughters will know what to be in a woman. Because sometimes guys are just going to clam up. Number 4, this kind of goes to some of the similar things I talked about in number 3, but number 4 is positive. Be positive. In today's society, we see so many times, especially on comedy television, where the funny thing is for the woman to insult the husband or insult her friends, to be snotty, to be, for lack of a better term, a bee. In fact, I remember one of the recent television shows that didn't last very long. It was something about the bee in apartment 4C or something like that. I'm sorry, this is my opinion, but in today's society, we are wrong to tell our young girls to grow up to be a bee. That's not healthy. That's not going to be profitable to them as they reach adulthood. We need to be positive, both men and women. But again, women, when you're modeling this for your daughters, a positive outlook and a positive attitude will be so much better than training them to, shake their head from side to side and snap their fingers back and forth, and just for the point of being a bee. If you're doing that, stop it. Raise your daughters to be gentle but strong. There's nothing wrong with being strong. I think all women are strong or should be strong, and that's why one of the reasons I was attracted to my wife is because she was strong from the moment I met her. Even over the phone, I could tell. I was a radio DJ, and most of the ladies who called me and the young girls that called me kind of had a little bit of a nervousness about them because they were talking to the DJ, and although I wasn't a celebrity, it had a little bit of a celebrity kind of connotation to it to them. I was the guy on the radio, and they were a little nervous. Kayla was unimpressed. She was strong, and she was unimpressed with me being the jock. She knew what she wanted. She asked for it. She was secure that she was going to get it. And she was confident talking to me. That attracted me, and it's one of the reasons that I furthered our conversations and eventually asked her out. There's a line that needs to be drawn between being a strong woman and being a bee. Don't do that. Don't cross that line. Be absolutely strong, but be absolutely positive. That's the influence you need to give to your daughters, for the women that they need to be, and for the wives that your sons will find. Positive. Always be positive. Number 5, be self-sufficient. My mom, as a single mom, was self-sufficient. She had to be. My dad was there, and he would help in any way he could, but my mom gathered the wood. I think my dad helped supply the wood for my mom, if I'm not mistaken. Would chop it and everything and make sure that we had it. But he didn't come and start the fire. Our house in the winter when I was growing up was heated by a fireplace. The whole house was heated by a fireplace, and the rooms in the back had space heaters if we wanted some warmth, and doubled up on the covers. But in the front of the house, to the middle, it was heated by a fireplace with vents. And my mom in the winter had to start the fire, keep it stoked. She had to load the wood, which meant she had to go out and gather it by the armloads out in the wood pile and bring it in the house and get everything started. That was my mom. That's what she had to do. She was a single mother, and she was self-sufficient. She worked. She was a school teacher. She worked. She paid the bills. She did everything that she could to keep us warm, comfortable, and fed. And she was successful because she was self-sufficient. She learned how to be. That is a model that is one of the things that is, to me, of utmost importance for a woman to model for her daughter. If you've got a husband and you've got or a boyfriend or something like that that kind of does things for you, that's fine. But teach your daughters the essentials. Don't teach them to cook because they need to be the little barefoot and pregnant wifey in the house like the 1950s. No. Teach them to cook because they may need to know how to cook as an adult. They may not have anybody to be there for them to help them with that. They may, but they may not. Teach them to cook because it is a skill that will benefit them. Teach your sons to cook so that he won't be just putting stuff in the microwave. My mom, a lot of the things I cook, it's because I asked my mom how to do it. Not as a child. As I grew up, she didn't really teach me to cook as a child, but as I grew up, she would offer that advice and all that stuff to me. And now, one of my favorite things to do is to cook things from scratch. I'm a good cook. I'll tell you that right now. I can make buttermilk biscuits better than a lot of women in my town that say, oh, I just go and buy the frozen biscuits. Michael doesn't do that. Michael gets self-rising flour and milk and Crisco and makes the dough, rolls the biscuits, cuts them, does everything. Michael can make a buttermilk biscuit, I'm telling you. Why I started talking in third person, I have no idea. Anyway, self-sufficiency is a very important skill or aspect to have for your daughters and for your sons. Your sons are going to try to model their dads in a lot of ways, but if dad's not there, mom, it might fall on you to do that. So being a good woman is being, to me, one of the great aspects of a good woman is to, if you can rely on somebody else and you want to rely on somebody else, that's your choice, but don't be content with that. There may come a day where you need to be self-sufficient, and there may come a day where your son or your daughter, they all need to be self-sufficient, and if you can help model that, you will give them a leg up on adulthood. Number 6, this is a biggie for me. Be virtuous. Your past is your past. But you can start right now with being a virtuous person. We're not going to go into spiritual tirade or anything about morals or anything like that. I'm going to say virtuous, and I shouldn't have to explain what being virtuous is. I don't think there's probably anybody that's going to listen to me that wouldn't agree that you want your daughter to grow up virtuous, proud of herself, respectful of herself and her body. You know, to me, for me, as a Christian, the ideal situation would be for my daughter to grow up, meet the man she's going to marry, and save herself sexually until the night of their wedding. I mean, that's my idea, my perfect idea of being a woman being virtuous from, childhood up until marriage. But we know that the society we live in. And being virtuous means different things to different people. But there are kind of some basic precepts of that I think we can all agree on. And if you want your daughter to grow up to be a virtuous person, then you need to model that for them. Be virtuous yourself. And one of the reasons I struggled as I was trying to think of these things and trying to decide how I wanted to talk about be the woman is because there are a lot of these things that I'm talking about being a woman that also apply to manhood that I didn't mention in Be the Man. And so I'm sitting here thinking I need to add also, men, you do the same thing. Understand that just because I didn't mention this for the man episode and I am mentioning it for the woman episode, please understand, I'm not saying that these don't apply to men. I just came up with 7 things, and these didn't come to mind when I came up with the 7 things for men. So, men, virtuous, that road goes both ways. All of these roads go both ways. But I know when I think of my daughter growing up and becoming a teenage girl and the things that she's going to be set in front of, as much as I'm going to try to protect her, I don't want to be that helicopter parent that smothers her. I don't want to hide her from the world so much that she is so crazy to find out what's out there when she gets away from me that she goes wild. I don't want that for her. And it scares the life out of me to know what's waiting around the bend, what monsters wait for her in the world. And I know that I want my wife to model virtuosity. Is that the right word? Virtuousness. And I know I want to model that too. I want my wife to be loyal to me to model that for her. I got to be loyal to my wife to model that for her. And the same for our son. Because they're going to pick up on those things, and they are going to have that in the back of their minds as they're choosing their mates and as they're just choosing the actions that they take out in life as adults. Be the spiritual rock. Now, you may think, if you listen to the last episode, that this is just a rehash of the spirituality of the first one in the last episode with Be the Man. But it's not actually. Because statistics will tell you that while I told men to be a spiritual leader in the home, statistics will tell you most of the time nowadays it's the women who take the steps to make sure that spirituality and holiness is in the home. You need to be a spiritual rock. Even if you've got a spiritual husband, you need to be that rock. You need to be that voice of reason. You need to stand up if nobody else will and say, you know, if you're church-going people and you're dedicated to that, then we're going to church Sunday morning. We're going to be there. If that's what you do. Be a rock. Be solid. When my son was very young, we had to get some books and read up and do some research on what it meant to parent a strong-willed child. Because my son is the very definition of strong-willed. He is hard-headed, and he was from very young. And one of the things that kept coming back to us and kept just highlighting in all of these texts that we would read was that children need a solid foundation in their parents, both the father and the mother. Children want to know that people are in control, that their parents are in control. That's why they would tell us, try not to yell. You know, don't lose control when your child is losing control, because that just makes things worse. When child's losing control, you have to stay in control. My mother, and the reason I put be a spiritual rock as number 7, is that my mother was and is the spiritual rock in our family. My stepdad is a spiritual leader, but my mom is a rock, unmoving, steadfast. We look to her when it feels like the waves are taking us out to sea. We look to her to anchor us. And I'm feeling like I'm going to get a little emotional here because our rock is battling right now with cancer. And that frightens me. But I know that because she was, or has been, the rock in our family, she's given us a model. And I want that. I'm thankful for that. And I want to be that for my son and my daughter. And my wife is a rock. And I'm thankful for that because I want that for my son and my daughter. So women, ladies, be a rock. You have it in you. You are strong. You are powerful. And you can be that solid rock foundation in a family. I don't know if I did this topic any justice at all. Honestly, I'm such an insecure person. I don't know if I came across as chauvinistic or that I didn't get it. I am a man, and I'm blunt, and I'm rough around the edges in a lot of places. I have a lot of feminine qualities because I grew up living with my mom and my sister. And that was it for the most part. I was with my dad some, but for the most part with my mom and my sister. And because of that, I've got a lot of qualities that I call them feminine qualities, but I think it's just that I understand the woman's mind a lot. I hope that I got this right. If I didn't, I'm going to beg you now to get back in touch with me and enlighten me and give me some of your thoughts and your ideas and let me share them, because this isn't just me talking. This is important for the future of our world, that our children have a good solid roadmap for being a man and for being a woman and what that looks like. And it's up to us to model it. Speaking of trying to get into the mind of a woman, I have had such a blessed time here recently writing on my novel. My novel is called Mr. Long Said Nothing, and you're probably sick to death of hearing me talk about it. But I just love this story. And I'm not going to go all into it. If you want to know more about it and you're just starting to listen to the podcast and you say, what is he talking about, Mr. Long Said Nothing? There is an episode. Don't ask me what the number is, but I think it's called How Mr. Long Got His Voice. If you look for that episode down in the archives, then you'll find the entire story behind Mr. Long Said Nothing, and you'll get caught up then. But I am writing the novel, and I'm in the second half of it, right smack dab in the middle of the second half of it, and I'm really now getting into the meat of and depth of the plot, the real psychology of it, and it is all centered around a 16-year-old girl in the early 1900s, Catherine Landers. And Catherine is a version of my wife. She's based on my wife. The things that are happening in this story are fictional. The characters are based off people in her family, but everything's a work of fiction based on a game her dad used to play with her as they would travel past a statue of Mr. Long in Slabtown's little community outside of Easley, South Carolina. So I wrote the play. We performed the play, and everybody kept telling me this would make a great book, so I decided to novelize it, and now I am 220 pages into it. I'm into the meat of it. It looks like it's going to be a 275 to 350 page story. That's kind of the average page count I think it's going to be, and I'm having a ball writing it. And lately I've been able to get 1,000 word average per day. Got 1,000 yesterday, got 1,000 today, even though I have just been humping, getting my etching done. I'll write at dinner, I'll write at lunch, I'll have my computer with me, and we'll just write. And it's just flowing now. It's difficult because I'm writing it directly from the script. I have the script on my phone, and I'll have to go along with the script for the dialogue and follow the plot line so that everything matches up to the play, but at the same time I'm adding all of the stuff that goes along with being a novel, and I'm even adding scenes and things that aren't into the play. I'm adding into the novel as well. But I'm having a blast doing that, and I can't wait to be able to release it. I'm going to try to send it out to some publishers, but I think I'm going to go ahead and try to self-publish it first and at least get some printed copies for my friends and family and some people that were, anybody who was involved with the play when it was originally produced. I'm going to get them all a physical copy and sign it for them as a gift and to thank you for being such a part, because as I'm writing this, the cool thing is, having directed the play and got to see it performed for 6 performances back in 2013, the neat thing is, as I write it, all of the characters, as I get into their heads more and flesh out the characters, I still see the actors who performed the show. Mr. David Bennett, one of my absolute best and dearest friends, played the role of James Landers / Mr. Long. I'm in the part now where the whole Mr. Long said nothing thing comes into play, and I'm seeing David. I mean, I hear David's voice. Winnie and Murda, the 2 old biddies that nobody can stand and you just want to smack them around. I see Tracy Brown and Lynn Alexander. I hear their voices. It's so cool that these people that are such dear and close friends of mine and so close to my heart, it makes me feel closer to them, because it's like I'm getting into their mind. Even though they only were playing a role, I'm getting into the mind of these characters now and the psychology of them, and it's their faces and voices that I see, those actors and those friends of mine, and it's almost like I'm kind of getting deeper into their mind, even though it's not really them, it's the roles they were playing. Does that make any sense? I don't know if it makes any sense to you, but if you're a writer, you probably understand. I will tell you that writing from dialogue from a play, creating a novel from a script, is much harder than I thought it was going to be, and I am looking forward. I'm having a ball with this, but when it's over, I'm looking forward to the next thing I write, the next novel or piece of fiction that I write like that in novel form. I'm looking forward to just being able to let it out and let my fingers fly without having to stop and read the dialogue and then build all of the prose around it. I had a new blog idea this week. There's just so much going on in my head this week that I'm excited about. I had this great idea for a story blog and ended up buying a couple of domain names to go along with it. I'm going to kick it off, called blogyarns.com and blogyarn.com. Found that domain was available, rolls off the tongue, and as I get it built and get it started, I'll tell you about it. I'm not going to tell you about it really right now, other than that's what it is, and I have an idea for it, and it's something I'm excited about. And if it flies, like so many of my harebrained ideas have not so far, if it does, and as I get it kicked off, I'll tell you about it. But it's been a crazy week. Been a crazy week. Just been etching and recording podcast episodes to get ahead, because I'm going to have a lot of time of travel, a lot of busy time that I'm going to be etching and out of town and on the road, that I'm going to be able to record advanced episodes of the podcast. But the reason I want to go ahead and do that is because after the first of the year, it slows down sometimes for 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and sometimes I find it hard to get the episodes recorded because I'm not in the car as much. And so if I get ahead of myself and stay that way, then maybe if it does get slow, then I'll go ahead and have some stuff already recorded and ready to go. I don't have a positive review this week. I honestly couldn't think of anything, because it's not because I'm bored or I'm just not happy with anything, but there's just been so much going on that I got a lot of stuff spinning around in my head, and I don't want to give you a positive review about something that, I don't want to throw it against the wall to see if it'll stick, just to give you a review. So I'm going to think on it, and maybe I'll give you a couple of them in the next episode. But that portion of the episodes is going to continue. I just don't have anything this week. But I am going to give you some feedback. I had some feedback from a guy out of Kissimmee, Florida. And really, I guess it's kind of he and his wife. He was speaking, I think, but he was speaking for he and his wife. It's Randy and Melissa Chambers. And they're out of Kissimmee, Florida, and I'm going to pull over here in a Wendy's/Pilot/Subway, and I'm going to read this feedback just as soon as I get over there. I'm going to pause this in just a second so you don't have to sit here and wait for me to get parked, but I don't want to read the feedback while I'm driving. I've talked about that before. I don't want to do that. That's dangerous. But I got to use the bathroom anyway after this episode is over, so I'm just going to pull into the parking lot, read the feedback, finish up the episode, and then I'm going to go in and go to the bathroom. So right now I'm going to pause it. You won't notice it. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This is from Randy and Melissa Chambers. Hi, Michael. I just wanted to reach out to you and say thank you for keeping my wife and I entertained on our weekend trips. We recently moved to Kissimmee, Florida, and all of our family lives on the West Coast, a little over 100 miles. So that's the West Coast of Florida, obviously. You always seem to be covering some topic we're struggling with. A few days ago, we lost a dear friend, and over the last 4 years, I have lost my father, his sister, my aunt, and 2 grandmothers. We enjoyed the Dealing with Death podcast and every other one we listen to regularly. The Keeping Your Marriage Fresh podcast really touched home with us. I always say never stop dating, yet I get so busy with my job, it's hard to make quality time. You give us so much inspiration. We hope you keep this going and helping us literally live life 1 mile at a time. Thanks for all you do, Randy and Melissa Chambers. Randy and Melissa, you can't know what that means to me. But well, maybe you do, because maybe you've heard me pout and moan about not getting people to give me feedback or anything. But it touches my soul to know that you feel like I'm inspiring to you. And it does give me the inspiration to keep going. So thank you so much. I hope that we can become friends and build a relationship over time. If you ever need anything, you just give me a holler. I'll be right here for you. And I want to extend that invitation out to everybody who is listening to me now and in the future. If you want to get in touch with me, I want to build a relationship with you. That's what this is all about. It's about us together learning to live life 1 mile at a time. And so if you'd like to get in touch with me, here's how you can do it. Obviously, the email way, and that is feedback@michaelblackston.com. That's feedback@michaelblackston.com. You can also get in touch with me if you'd like to leave a voicemail and let me play your voice over the air, quote-unquote, in the podcast. We can do that, too. I have a voicemail line. It's 706-408-7456. That's 706-408-7456. Or you can get in contact with me via roadnoisepodcast.com. And I'm not going to give you any other crazy stuff for you to do, calls to action or anything like that, because I just don't want to overwhelm you. But other than following me at Twitter or on Twitter at EverythingArts, you can get in touch with me and do all the other stuff at roadnoisepodcast.com. So go there. Anything you need to do, it's right there at your fingertips, and I'd love to hear from you. Got a topic? Let me know. Got a thought? Let me know. And until next time, don't know what episode 59 is going to be about, but it should be fun. I'm Michael Blackston. Once again, thanks for joining me as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time.